mode.
Welcome, Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street special Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day. And who do we have here? What's your name?
Lily.
And what's your last name?
Uh,
You forgot Coleman.
oh, yeah, Coleman.
And what do you do for Coleman Publishing? Do you pick out Papa's ties?
Yes.
And what is your favorite color?
Hello.
Yellow. There you go. And how old are you?
4.
Anyway, I thought that would be fun. Unfortunately, or fortunately, my two sons work for me, so I see them every day at work. Next year, Lance, let's make sure we get the rest of everyone's family on here, all right?
Yeah, it's fun when they're that age, Bob, as you well know, but they grow up quickly.
Yes, you have a bow in your hair. Say, Lily, here, well, say goodbye to everyone.
Bye, Lily.
There you go. We have two special guests. We have Kimberly and Kyle. They're talking America West. Kyle, I'll let you start first. Tell us about the event.
This is a conference we're doing in Palm Springs, June 11th through 13th. And what it is a show that you can bring your entire group to. So we have sessions that cover underwriting, closing, packaging, servicing, portfolio management, liquidations. And really it's designed to bring content and expertise to everybody, from someone who is an experienced lender to somebody who's also very new at it.
Tell us about the facility. Where is it going to be held?
Yes, it's in Palm Springs at the Rancho Mirage. It is the Omni, I believe, Omni Los Palmas.
Okay.
And really nice place if you've ever been there before.
I'm a big desert rat. I love going out there. Lance, are you coming out to that event? Are you?
I'm working on that, Bob.
Well, Lance, if you come out, I will take a couple people in my Jeep. I'll take you out the Joshua Tree if you're so inclined. Kimberly, where are you out of? And you're speaking about the event as well. Are you presenting at the event?
No, I'm going to be an attendee. I'll have the privilege of being an attendee.
Okay. And tell us about your interest in this event.
I attended last year. I have about 12 years experience in SBA lending. I've taken many different forms of trainings from RMA, NAGL, NADCO, NDA, but this one was fantastic. I really enjoyed the format and the offerings.
No, I mean, I was there last year. I'm going to be there again this year. It's a great event. I understand we have special pricing for those of us on the show today. What is that?
Correct. Yeah, we are offering a discount with a coupon code Coleman, and that gives you $25 off your registration. So feel free to use that code. I think it's coming up on the screen right now.
Yeah, there it is. Very good. Well, I appreciate you coming. Tell me about the buy-in that you have from SBA. Who from SBA will be showing up?
Actually, we have William Manger, or Bill Manger, is going to be one of our keynote speakers. And then we have selected quite a few folks from different offices there at the SBA to help out with some of our sessions. So we like to do very interactive sessions, and they'll be able to come in and give SBA's opinion and kind of view on some of the different topics we'll cover, like liquidations, portfolio management, as I had mentioned. And so, yeah, we'll bring them in to be very active in this conference as well.
Well, it's very good. I'm a big fan of these regional conferences, and even though you may not be in the West, you are welcome to join. Pro tip, do not fly to LAX, fly to Vegas.
Nice call.
Oh.
Yeah. You do not want to be LAX anytime after. You don't want to go to LAX anyway. Just fly to Vegas, rent the car. Or you can fly directly to Palm Springs. Very good. Look forward to it. Thank you both for joining us.
Yep. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
So the poll questions. Bill, we had Bill Manger on the screen, and he testified last week about changes in Office of Capital Access before the Senate Small Business Committee, and these are some of SBA's wish list. And check all that you agree with.
Bob, it's kind of interesting, the wish list that he had, and it falls in line with a lot of lenders. One of the things that I've thought about in express loans, Bob, I love the idea of going to $1 million, but I think one of the things that would be even more impactful is if they could increase the guarantee amount on the express loans a bit.
I agree with you 100%, and yeah, good for you. I agree with that. I was on a webinar with the National Small Business Alliance, I think it is, and they were asking me, what changes do you want to see? I said, hey, you bump that guarantee from 75% to 80%. You bump that express guarantee from 50 to 75. That's going to make the program that much more attractive. Lance, only 11% of the lenders in the country participate in SBA's program. So I don't know how to respond to that. Do we want more competition, or do we want more access to capital? What's your opinion about that?
Well, I just think that you're always going to have participant banks that are small that dabble in SBA lending, thus the need for Colin and his crew to provide a platform for them to do it. But I think taking your existing active SBA lenders and giving them a tool to get more capital to small businesses is the way to grow the program, increasing the express loan to $1 million. But what you said, Bob, if you took the guarantee percentage from 50 to 75%, do you know how many more lines of credit to small businesses would be extended by participant banks across the country? It'd be amazing.
Yeah, and we're not, by the way, Lance and I are on record. We're not criticizing the 50%, but we're saying if this is our wish list. If the government is really serious about access to capital, give a little bit more incentive to the lenders. These loans are expensive to underwrite. They're expensive to service, and they're a pain in the you-know-what if you have to liquidate them.
Well, two thoughts that I have, Bob. I'm not as worried. I would rather see the guarantee percentage on expressing. If I had a choice, guarantee percentage increase to 75%, or we go from 350 to $1 million, I'd rather see the guarantee percentage increase.
I agree with you. That's going to give the incentive to the lenders. Everyone wants to make these smaller loans. You increase that percentage, it's going to happen.
Well, and there's one other thing that I would put on my wish list, Bob. Put a true revolving line of credit program in the regular 7A. Not just express, but put a true revolver that you can do above and beyond the express with a regular 7A as opposed to the cap line. I'm talking about a revolver where the borrower doesn't have to jump through the borrowing-based certificates.
I personally see both of these happening. You're going to see an increase in express, and I believe also in 504. E is interesting because SBA is promulgating the regulations. They're going to be able to fine rogue lenders. So that's going to be new, and that's coming down soon.
Well, and I had Susan from Okram in one of training with me at Mount. And SBA is getting more and more pressure from Congress.
Right, that's where it's coming
from. To monitor and to keep an eye on and to audit small business lenders. So, and they're collecting information. When we talk about the SBA Form 159, one of the things they're doing with that is starting to collect a database of information about people who are paid fees on SBA loans. So, we're going to see E increase over time.
And let's go to poll question number 2. This is for Kimberly and Kyle. We're asking, what do you want to learn in workshops? So maybe this will help you all. And I believe, yeah, you can check more than one. Lance, sadly, your liquidation and servicing is dead last.
Well, Bob, that only becomes important when we have a period of SBA loan defaults. And one of the topics we're going to talk about today may elevate the love for servicing and liquidation.
Yeah, it's very good. As we said, these are great programs. And finally, the last question, this is from Kyle. Do you struggle with 1502 reporting? Kyle, why are you asking this question?
Well, just because a lot of lenders come to PCFS and our software company to help with the 7A, especially if you sell it on the secondary market. Most core systems can't accommodate that, and it becomes a manual process. They have to push it into an Excel spreadsheet and then go from there. A lot of times their pay-due dates are off. There's quite a bit that can go wrong using kind of a wrong tool that's not designed for SBA lending to do a 1502 report and service your portfolio.
I'm surprised with that number. That it's that high. Lance, I know one of the issues with the 1502 reporting where lenders get themselves in trouble is they don't even submit the report, correct?
Well, and that's exactly right, Bob. If you look at the metrics of the PARA score, which is how SBA evaluates a participant lender, all you have to do, you can have one late 1502 and you drop from a 1 to a 3. Two late 1502s, you're all the way to a 5, Bob, in the PARA metrics.
So let's call, if you have an issue, call Kyle. How's that? We'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, I'm going to make some referrals. You're going to get some calls this afternoon, buddy. No.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And there's the agenda that we have. And as I said, very low cost. Get your staff out there. We fully support what is happening. Hey, Paul, extraordinary questionnaire, is asking this question. Lance, what do we got?
Well, this is a good question. What do we determine our equity injection amount on? What is the basis for the 10% equity injection on startups and business acquisition loans? The basis is total project cost, which is not just the business acquisition, it's the business acquisition plus the guarantee fee, plus the working capital, plus closing costs, the total project amount, not the total loan amount. So you're going to make a equity injection determination based on the total project cost, 10% of that amount.
Lance, and we always get this question, and people are going to say, well, wait a minute, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? How do I get the $42,000 as documented as equity injection when we're clearly giving the borrower back $80,000? Is that a prudent lending type of structure?
We were talking about giving them some working capital. That's why the SBA SOP 5010-5K clearly requires proof of equity injection prior to the first disbursement. If they didn't, if you tried to prove the equity injection after the first disbursement, there's a working capital amount, you're going to have problems. So it's very clear your documentation on equity injection. Guys, I was doing a training session for SBA loan closers, filming it yesterday, properly documenting equity injection, properly documenting the source of the equity injection is so important in protecting your guarantee. But again, the SOP 5010-5K says you've got to evidence the equity injection prior to dispersing the loan.
And will the SBA criticize this structure where we're clearly giving them $80,000 on top of a $40,000 equity injection?
Well, Bob, if you look at the SOP, it's within the heart and soul of the SOP, which says, as a participant lender, we've evaluated their working capital needs, and we're going to ensure that those working capital needs are met. Your equity injection should be applied to the business acquisition price. So you're going to take that straight out of that. And working capital, hopefully, is not funded in one lump sum. I like to do it, disperse it over a period of time.
Remember, when you sign that 1920, you are certifying that business has sufficient working capital for the next 12 months. So SBA demands that you do that. So
this whole story, Bob, we as participant lenders shouldn't give them just enough money to get in, but we want to give them enough money to stay in business.
Absolutely. Great advice. Michael asked the question, I'm struggling with some sort of matrix to justify fees. Lance, I think you put together a nice chart. Do we have that in our dashboard, Joseph?
One thing I wanted to point out, I had an opportunity at Mid-America Lenders Conference to visit with some SBA staff, and packaging fees are a point of emphasis, especially for Okram. They're collecting information about it. They did not indicate that you have to have some complex formula for determining and supporting the packaging fee. couple of key things. You cannot have a standard packaging fee for every SBA loan. It has to vary based on the complexity of the loan. For instance, a loan with 10 affiliates is a lot more complex than just a loan to a single borrower. Or maybe you have a substantial number of guarantors, or maybe something about the business, but the packaging fee needs to vary. You don't want to see, if you did 20 loans, 10 $500 fees and 10 $2,500 fees. You want to see some variation based on that. The other thing is, do not put as part of packaging, when you say service performed, you should never use the word underwriting.
Because it's not an ESOP. Yeah.
You should never use completing the SBA Form 1920 or any other bank associated form. You want to use generic things like help with projections, help with business plan, loan packaging, and just use a number of hours and a normal hourly rate.
Yeah, this is it. You don't need to do a complex calculation. My advice is whatever your paralegal charges you, that's what I would charge. But where lenders are getting themselves into problems is they're not even doing this.
Yeah,
so
they're not putting.
You're going to be fine.
Yeah, they're not putting any documentation at all. And again, at Malc, that was supported from comments from SBA. They're wanting something in the file to indicate what justifies the packaging fee. It doesn't have to be a 7-page calculation. What is on the slide you see right now is fine.
Very good. Again, we talked about the wish list, and that's a mess of a slide, but I'm not going to read it all. What was interesting, Bill Manger, when he testified, processing times are going down somewhere in the middle of the slide. I think there's now the 2 days. By the way, lender match, you should all be onto that. And you get the emails, and yeah, there's a lot of work to go through that. But we did our SBA BDO summit, and one of the BDOs there got a very nice loan off a lender match. So make sure you're signed up for that and take advantage of that. I think somewhere in there it says that 4 million email leads from Main Street to the lenders. And we also talked about Okra and their ability to find rogue lenders, and that's going to be coming up. Let's see. We always talk about this. Lance and I say there will be a recession. We're not going to predict it, but let's be aware of that.
We had a speaker at Mount. He was an economist from Texas A&M. He indicated he did not feel like there would be a recession in 2019. I don't think so either. He also kind of indicated 2020 may be off the table. I do think we may see a light recession in the next 12 months or so.
Well, it just for those of you new to lending, we've had a great run for the last 7 or 8 years. There will be a downturn. It's going to happen. Hopefully it will not be as bad as the Great Recession. I don't think anybody's predicting that, but you cannot assume our stats that we put out for our franchise and our NAICS codes, defaults, you cannot assume that that's going to remain forever. Especially if you're retail and you're associated with the mall, there will be hiccups as we go through. We'd like to go ahead, Lance.
I'm sorry, Bob. You make an incredibly excellent point. A Reader's Digest version of the story. When I finished my MBA, my first job was with FDIC closing banks. I went to work for several more years. The next recession was about 9 years after that. About 10 years after that, we hit another one, and I'm starting to give away my age. But a downturn is normal. It's a normal part of the economic process.
I told the story. I started my banking career when prime hit 21.5%.
Yeah. Bob,
your cash
great
flow.
point. First SBA loan I ever did, Bob, the interest rate was 20.5%. All our participant bankers should go back and get their debt service coverage spreads and see how many of their loans work at a 20.5% rate.
Well, we are definitely showing our age. Hey, I like to tell this story. We know about the fraud. And the takeaway on this is no one asked the simple question, does this make sense? And that's what the takeaway of this fraud is. And when you're underwriting, when you're closing, when you're being a lender, take a step back and look at the entire transaction and ask yourself the question, does this make sense? If anybody had asked this question, we would not have had $180 million fraud. Mr. Patel's sentence was upheld. He appealed it, saying that his co-founder or co-schemer got 10 years. He should not have got 25 years. But that's the takeaway on that.
Follow the rules, Bob.
Well, no, not follow the rules. Just ask the question. Does it? Hey, here's all of the upcoming regional events which we are touting. Please take advantage of them. Nagel, NADCO, Detroit. These are great events. Be sure and take advantage of that and sign up. And we talked about our events where Lance is redoing his loan closer training, and that's what we're offering now. We have availability of that. In our upcoming webinars, we're doing one on construction, dispersing a construction loan. Lance is going to bring us up to date credit elsewhere in 159 documentation. And Joseph, we need to change this. We're having, I think it's our 12th annual hospitality financing webinar, which is always a fun one. And with that, thank you all. Thanks for joining us.
Weekend.
Send us your questions. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks.